Not a whole lot. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, well, got some stuff around the house done, refletched a couple arrows, took a nap. That was nice. Needed that. Cut the
Yeah,
grass, cut a
yeah,
couple trees down. Um, yeah, I mean, the stand is hung now, so I finally got one of my bucks to daylight again after we went in there and sweated like crazy.
mm,
And I was getting a little nervous. So, in Georgia we can bait. So
yeah,
got a bag of corn out there, and old Elmer Fudd decided to show up.
mm,
So I'm excited. I'm happy. Nothing's shown up since then, which is a little stressful, but
yeah.
you know,
No, I've got a couple of good ones on camera. Mostly nighttime right now. I've had a
really,
few slip up during daylight. One of them, couple about 8 to 9 o'clock in the morning. I've not had
yeah.
any evening daylight time, which is a little strange.
Hmm,
But the other two guys that's on the To Know 'Em team, they got some hammers that's
really.
coming in pretty regularly. So I think August hunt's going to be exciting.
Hey,
I
where are you
hope.
guys
I
based
hope.
out of?
So I live in Adairsville, Georgia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so, but I hunt a lot in Tennessee still. That's where I'm from. I'm from the Chattanooga area, and
Got it.
those guys they still live up there, and so all of us we hunt pretty much around the same area, a couple of different mountains and stuff.
Mhm.
But most of it's all Tennessee.
Heck yeah, dude.
And I got
Yeah.
some property here by the house. I own a little over 5 acres. I hunt right out by my house, and then I got a lease. I got on a lease this year. It's just over 200 acres, and it's like five of us on it. And older
Sweet.
guys, they don't bow hunt, so it's
So early
don't.
seasons, just
The
you
only
guys.
thing weird about that spot is they won't let us hunt on Saturday. The guy that owns it is like a Seventh Day Adventist, and so they
That a
like,
thing?
yeah, they believe in keeping the Sabbath and on Saturday,
Oh, well,
and so yeah,
yeah,
I was like, it's your property, so I'll do what you
yeah.
will. But
I mean, both my private spots are like that, man. Like one of them is actually behind a church.
mm,
So obviously Sundays are no go for that.
yeah,
And then the other one is owned by my grandparents, or well, really my wife's grandparents, and they're like staunch, just straight up Southern Baptist. You don't do nothing on Sunday. Sunday is church day only. And I'm like, that's of course when all of my bucks decide to show up over there. So it's like, I don't know if
yeah,
God's being like, hey man, look, come see me more or whatever. But yeah, it's
man,
I've fought with them and fought with them on that because early on I was like, the woods are my church, which I still feel that way, right?
mm,
But they did not like that. They were like, yeah, no, Sundays are
yeah.
for you to not have to do anything and no hunting. So
Well, I don't know if you've ever heard my story. I'm gonna keep it brief because I know we got to get into your story. Um, but I had whenever I first gave my life to the Lord, He sort of charged me with, which I was completely skipping church to hunt. I was
yeah,
that guy. I'm closer to the Lord, 20 foot in a tree, and all that stuff. And
yep,
not to say anything's wrong, but my heart was just not right. And He challenged me of, I don't want you missing church to go hunting. And
yeah,
I wrestled with it. I was like, all right, you know what? Hey, I'll be obedient to that. And then I killed the biggest, well, that deer right there is the buck that I shot. And that year. And it was, only thing I can chalk it up to is the Lord just blessed obedience. And so to this day, I don't miss church just to hunt. I'll still hunt on like a Sunday evening if we don't have
yeah.
nothing going on, but I don't just miss church to go hunt anymore.
Maybe that's what I need to do then.
That might be it. You never know.
I was joking earlier, but now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, man, you know what?
Yeah, no,
Maybe
it because I'm gonna tell you that year when I shot that deer, I'd never even you can if you ever ask my wife, like when the first time I pulled up, first time I ever ran trail cameras, anything
yeah,
like that, very first picture I ever had was that deer sitting there 20 yards broadside on my trail camera. And I'm like, oh, full velvet. I'm like, what is this? Look at this,
yeah,
And in October I shot him. And so 20
that's
yards
crazy.
broadside, but enough of me. So dude, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, of course.
The hunter story is something to know them outdoors has always been my heart to talk to men about their faith in Christ. I tell everybody, hey, if you want to go to find more information on be a better hunter, there's tons of places. Your podcast being one of them. So definitely drop your name there. I'm a fan of yours. I've been listening to you. I guess I stumbled on it about 2 or 3 months ago, and hearing you and hearing your time that you set right before your podcast of sort of just sharing what the Lord's doing in your life. It's been a blessing to me, and so keep doing that. I encourage you to always do that. But it's led me to ask you to come on here. And so, real briefly, just tell everybody who you are, what you do, your podcast and stuff, and then we'll roll into some questions.
All right. Yeah. My name's Erik. I'm with Southeastern Bowhunter Podcast. Been doing it 3 years. And for the people that, listen now, they hear, you mentioned something earlier about the intro, how I always take time to, push the word and just kind of bring more people to Jesus. But in the beginning, dude, it wasn't like that. And, I did warn you, my testimony is pretty long. So, but to sort of, I guess, get on the podcast side of that. Yeah, man, the beginning of it, I had no idea what I was doing. Really, really jumped out on a limb. And like looking back, I know that it was, God having my back on this, because, he knew, I think he had to have known where it was going to go, right? Like what I was going to end up doing with it. And because in the beginning, man, I think 3 months in, I reached out to like Summit and Osteo. And I was like, hey guys, I've got this podcast, I'm a huge fan, use your stuff, blah, 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 blah. Y'all want to partner up? And they wanted to. So I've been partnering with those guys now for 3 years.
That's
and
awesome.
It's, and like I said it when I guess this whole thing went on the fritz for a minute, but I'm not trying to make it sound like the whole prosperity gospel thing. Like I don't really follow that, but I do know that when you're doing God's will, things do happen, right? Like blessings do come. So I just attributed everything with all the partners that we've got now and kind of where we're at. It's all God, man. And like, I've had arguments with people. I shouldn't say arguments. I've had discussions with people where they're like, oh no, man, it's your hard work. You're doing this, you're doing that. I'm like, no, it's not me. I promise. If you knew me well enough, it's not me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where we're at. 140 episodes strong, man. Still trucking.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I love tuning into your stuff. I think all the guests you have on there do a really. I just heard, the one from Tim Knight. Man, that dude's an animal with a bow. Over 100 turkeys with a bow. I was like, man, I can't even get one of them suckers.
Yeah, he killed me. Like, so, are you on TikTok?
No.
Okay. So I didn't want to go on TikTok, but I did make one last year to try and get a little bit more traction, right?
Yeah.
And I posted a video that for like a clip from his first episode this year with the turkeys. And the clip says, it verbatim starts, there are turkey hunters and there's turkey killers. And it just goes on from there. And that thing got like 20,000 views, right? So I'm like, there might be something there. So he comes back on, right? And I didn't even tell him about that yet. And he immediately starts going with like the controversial stuff. He's like, just 3 most important things in bow hunting. And I just threw my hands up. I'm like, all right, Tim, it's going to be a whole episode of just controversial stuff, man. You're giving me clip after clip after clip.
Yeah.
And it was a great episode, man. Tim is one of those guys that like, he's been in the game longer than I've been alive, and he knows his stuff. So anytime he comes on, I'm just sitting there just like, all right, mental note there, mental note here. I mean, he is
the wisdom's good. There's a lot of guys out there that I can just listen to for hours talk about, different tactics they do and scenarios, different woods they hunt, and try to bring it into where I'm hunting Tennessee mountains or the Georgia mountains, or if I go up to Ohio to hunt with my buddy, it's just, there's all different areas everywhere, different tactics you can use, and just get a whole, toolbox of them, and whatever works for you, apply it and go that way.
Yeah.
Well, shoot, yeah, man. Well, if you want to, first, how'd you get into hunting? Because you sort of got into it later on, didn't you?
I did. Yeah. So I'm originally from Chicago, and being from I wouldn't say the city, it was really suburbs of Chicago, but my uncle was a huge deer hunter. At least that's what I thought. And what I'm about to say may, come off a little harsh, but he was the type, like the typical, I guess, I don't want to say Midwestern deer hunter, but let's just say he went to the woods and hunted deer, but he loved to hunt beer more. You know what I'm saying? Right. Yeah. Which, I mean, hey, whatever, I've had my own, interactions with stuff like that, but Yeah, so I was always over at their house. We were super close with them when we lived there, and he had deer on the wall. And like, even having gone back a few years ago and seeing this deer, I'm like, dude, that's still big. You know,
Mm,
like to me as a little kid, they're huge. And so I just got obsessed with deer. But
yeah.
because he was never willing to take me hunting, which I don't blame him, because had I gone at such a young age and got exposed to, the drinking
Hmm.
and the cussing and like all the stuff that was going on, yeah, I probably it wasn't an environment for a kid,
Yeah.
and so I never went, but I used to play Deer Hunter all the time when I was little. Like I'd be on a computer with dial up, just waiting an hour and a half for the game to load. And then I'd
Hmm.
see this giant, it's always that little pixel deer that looks the same, but I've got that, you click the gun and it's like, there he is. That's a nice buck. And
Yeah.
then, you click it and it's like a spike.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that was my experience with it. I mean, I had, played in the woods and I had watched a bunch of shows.
Mm,
Every Saturday morning I was watching Sportsman's Channel or TNN or anything that had
man.
hunting. Um, but then I got actually into hunting when I met my wife. Her best friend's husband was heavy into it, and
Mm,
I had no idea. Never even really thought about it. Like it was interesting to me, right? But you know, when I grew up in or where I grew up in Georgia, uh, there I didn't know you could hunt.
mm.
I was only 30 minutes from the Seek One guys, but like to me, I'm in a neighborhood. There's a Kroger a mile down the street. Like I can't hunt here.
Yeah. Little did you know
And
there's 200-inch deer in.
oh, dude, I had no clue. I had no clue. And it's funny because the Seek One guys are a huge portion of how I, got to be bold enough to talk about my faith on the podcast, which I
Nice.
know we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then I go over to my wife's friend's house and there's deer all around. And I asked him, I'm like, yo, do you hunt? And he was like, yeah, yeah. I was like, could you take me this year? He's like, well, have you ever been? I'm like, no, I've played deer hunter. That's all I know. Maybe Cabela's big game. Like that's my experience.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's where it started, man. I bought a gun. First sit killed my first deer, and
Nice.
then after that, I left gun hunting and went strictly bow hunting. So
Yeah.
it's been six years hunting, 5 years bow hunting.
Nice.
So
So your
yeah,
first sit ever you killed a deer?
yeah. It was November 9th, 2019, and it was rut like crazy. I've only ever seen it like this one time, and we go to his mom's place, and he's got this little tiny like TP style ground blind.
Mm,
And now, mind you, again, I've never been hunting. He's showing me photos of all these big deer because the county that we were in has really nice deer. And I'm like, dude, do you care? Because I don't know. I don't know the etiquette. So
yeah.
all I'm thinking is, you're taking me there. If one of these giants show up, I'm going to shoot it, right? And he's like, dude, I don't care. Shoot whatever you want. So I'm thinking I'm going to walk in and kill like a state record or something. And he let me learn the hard way. And I'm walking in there, and I'm cold. I don't think about the fact we're going to be sitting there for hours, so I chug an energy drink, which that'll become important later. And the sun's coming up, and he sprays like doe and estrus on the ground. I'm taking notes. I'm watching what he's doing, right?
Mm,
And he sprays doe and estrus on the way to the blind. Then we get in the blind, and he waits for the sun to come up. Well, right before the sun comes up, this doe starts blowing at us, and I
mm,
look at him. I'm like, "What is that?" And he's like, "That's a doe. Like she smells us, she sees us, whatever." And I'm like, "So do you think anything's gonna show up?" He's like, "Dude, it's November. It's the rut. Don't worry
yeah.
about it." So sun comes up. He hits the rattle bag, hits the little bleak can, and next thing I know, man, this little spike comes running across the road because we're not that far. We're maybe 100 yards from the road. You could see it.
Mm,
And this buck comes running across the road, circles behind us, and I'm like, dude, I think that was a deer. And he was like, yeah, that was Spike. And he told me what happened. Well, then this 8 point that at the time I thought was a giant comes walking out from my left and is probably like 25 yards away, right?
mm.
And I've got my gun, but the funny thing is I have to pee like a racehorse, like so bad. And I'm over here nudging him. I'm like, dude, I've got to go so bad. And he's like, but there's a deer. I'm like, I know, but I've got to go bad. And he's like, well, just hold it. I'm like, okay. And so this deer comes walking up, and I get my gun up, and I got him in the crosshairs, and I am like ready, right? And he goes, shoot him. I was like, okay. So click the trigger, and no joke, man, I'm like this, and it goes, and I'm
Mm,
like, ah, because I knew misfire,
Yeah.
right? So I'm still holding there. Deer doesn't have any idea we're there. And I'm like, what do I do? He's like, rack another round. It's like, all right, dude. So get it down, just rack around, bring the gun up, pow, and just watch him fall 20 yards away. And
Nice.
after that, I was hooked.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was
So you didn't have the
again,
brutal upbringing. Like,
no, I got spoiled.
yeah, you got spoiled. My dad had about the only thing we really had, growing up is just a connection on hunting. And he had me in the woods since I was, man, I feel like 3 or 4 years old. And
Mhm,
he's a truck driver, weekend warrior. Just go out Saturday. It don't matter. Find a tree, sit down, and that's where we're hunting.
mhm.
And man, years and years and years and years, not even really even seeing deer. I'm just
Yeah.
like, what are we doing here? And it wasn't until later on, once I shot my first deer, that we actually killed a deer together. And but that was brutal. I'm just I talk to guys all the time. They talk about killing first, deer their first sit and stuff, and I'm like, man, I don't know how I even got hooked because I had years of like disappointment. Like, this sucks.
Yeah.
What are we
Well, and
doing?
that's the funny thing is like, yeah, I killed a deer my first sit, but it went, I mean, I think the year I killed the most deer was 2020. I killed 2 bucks, tagged
Mm,
out. But what was funny is the amount of sits and like just the time that I spent in there.
yeah,
Dude, I wasn't seeing anything,
mm,
and it got so bad, which is another reason why I started the podcast, that like me and my wife were having problems, dude.
yeah,
I mean, it was so bad that there would be family stuff going on, and I would be like, yeah, well, I'm gonna go hunt that morning, so I'll just come later, and then I'd be
mm,
gone like half the day, you
yeah,
know. And so that was actually the birth of the podcast, thanks to Working Class Bow Hunter. They
yeah,
basically showed that anybody can do it, and I'm like, okay, I need to do this
yeah,
because if I don't, I'm gonna be living on my own. Like it was bad, man.
yeah.
It was really bad.
It's good for men to have, like, don't have multiple hobbies, but have a hobby that you can like decompress in.
Yep.
And a lot of guys want to hunt and then golf and do this and do that, and then what? I only do so many things so many times. And it's like you look at it and like, yeah, dude, how often are you at home? And then if
Yeah.
if you're a Christian man, man, our charge as fathers is to train up our children, to disciple our wife, to bring them up in the Lord. And then you really start getting in the, well, how are you doing on that? What's your health check look like on that? Are you reading the Bible to your kids? Are you worshiping with your wife? Are you being the husband you're called to be and the father you're called to be? It's like one of the things that sort of, I don't even know where I got it from, but like one of the slogans or whatever with To Know Him Outdoors is hunting is essential, but Jesus Christ is eternal. Like, that's the most important thing. And
Yeah.
killing deer, or like, I'm addicted. Like, I love deer hunting, but if it ever come to a point where it was my family over deer hunting, dude, so
Oh, for
you
sure.
got to have that work, that you got to have that work life and hunting balance. We got three categories now. It's no longer work life balance. You got to
Yeah.
have that hunting balances too. And it's something I've had to learn. And my wife, she's put me in my place too on some things that I was struggling in. And I'm a huge football fan. So it was like hunting Saturday morning. Then I wanted to watch Michigan football on Saturday
You got
because,
four things to juggle.
man, yeah, it was bad. I was horrible. On top of four daughters,
Mm.
and a wife. So, um, but talking about hunting and sort of getting into here, because I got the cheap version here, and I definitely want to hear your testimony and stuff, and obviously share whatever you want to, whatever the Lord's put on your heart. But first questions, I have three questions for guys. First one is talking about hunting. So
Mhm.
about all of your memories of hunting or fishing, just outdoors in general. What would you say would be your favorite memory?
Man, that so I have two.
Okay.
And what's funny is they both have, Jesus sprinkled in there. But the first one would be this buck I call the prayer buck,
Mm,
which he's over here on the wall. I can show him to you later. But he this was in that time that, I was just obsessive over it, right?
mm,
And went and hunted on a Saturday. Went that morning. It was like October 17th or something like that. And I go in, I see this deer, but I know that there's like a 160-inch buck in the area. So I'm like, I don't know, man. There's bigger. I know this place can produce more, so I'm just gonna let them walk. Well,
Yeah.
to that point, that would have been my biggest buck. So I don't know if it was kind of God getting on to me and being like, hey, I brought that deer to you and you didn't kill him. What's going on here?
Mm.
Like, that's your biggest buck, man. You're praying about a bigger deer. Well, here you go, and you didn't take it. And so I go hunt the next morning. It's a Sunday morning, which at the time I wasn't even remotely like, I was kind of thinking about it a little bit, like I
Yeah.
was sort of, and I've never, that's one thing I do need to say is before I get into the whole testimony thing, but I've never denied Christ. I just didn't have a relationship with him.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
So getting back to the hunt, I go back that next morning, same spot, same time, all that stuff. This buck shows up again. Now, the reason I call him the prayer buck is because I remember when I got to the spot that morning, I prayed and I was like, Lord, if I know I messed up yesterday, I was like, I know I missed the opportunity. That would have been my biggest deer. If you see fit, if it's your will, and you send him this morning, I will shoot him, like
Mm.
no question.
Yeah.
And sure enough, man, he showed up. The crazy thing, and why I say it's like, you know, one of the top memories for me is I shot this deer and he went 10 yards and
Mm.
piled over. So I'm ecstatic. I'm out. I see him. He's on the ground. He's not kicking. He's not moving. I jump out of this ground blind and I'm like, oh, like I'm freaking out, right?
Yeah.
I walk up to this deer. His only third deer I've ever killed. So I walk up to him and I have this thing, and some people might think I'm weird, but I love to give the animal respect. I always, even before I got saved, before I got baptized, before I dove headfirst into my faith, I always would go by the deer and just thank God for him, and then be like, "Thank you for the sacrifice." Right.
Yeah.
So I put my hand on this deer's neck, and I can still feel a heartbeat, like a pulse. Now he's not moving. He's got a hole going through double lungs, but however it worked, there was something going on that to me felt like a pulse.
Mm.
And I stand up and I'm just looking at him. He's looking at me, and I'm just like, oh, I'm like, I'm the last thing you're gonna see before you die. Like, what is going on? So I just left, man. And I think I laugh about it now. And
Yeah.
at the time, though, I was a little freaked out because I'm like, oh man, this is heavy, right? And
Yeah.
I think that
You
that
didn't
happened.
Rambo slit his throat or nothing. You was like, see you,
Well,
dude.
no,
I'll be back.
no, trust me. It. I'll send you a photo of him when I walked up on him and he was actually dead. Trust me, he was not going anywhere, and he was
Yeah.
probably on his way out seeing those pearly gates as I was walking up to him. But I feel like that was kind of like the moment where I realized, like, okay, this isn't a game.
Yeah.
Like, we're not out here just shooting for fun. Like, this is serious.
Mm.
You're taking a life. So I learned that lesson. But I would have to say maybe my absolute favorite would be the buck back here, right there, if I can figure it out.
Yeah.
Kind of the same story, but I go into this other spot. This is 2 years after I killed the prayer buck. And my daughter named this deer Pickles. She names all my deer. So all of
That's
them have
awesome.
names.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even the target buck. So there was him and another deer named Bluey. And they had been showing up a lot and all that. And, I get in the ground blind. What I don't realize is the week prior I'd hunted public and I
Mm.
didn't wash my clothes because I'm thinking, well, I guess I just didn't think about it, honestly. So my clothes are in a tote. I throw my little iodizer or whatever it's called,
Mm-hmm.
the air purifier thing in there. I think that's going to do the job. And I get up there, I hop out of the truck because I always change outside the truck, grab my clothes, and I can smell them. They're like mildewy, they're damp,
Mm.
they smell terrible. And I'm like, well, I got two options: take a bath in nose jammer, because that's what I was using at the time, or go home. I was like, I'm not going home. So I took a
Yeah.
whole can of nose jammer, brand new, just doused everything.
Yeah.
I could still smell myself.
You look like the perfume out at J.C. Penney.
Yes, yes. I was sniffing jammer for a week. It was terrible. But I get in the ground blind, perfect time. I put the food out, the whole process, right?
Mm.
I get in there and this big doe comes walking up, and she comes up from my left because I'm in this clearing. She comes up from my left and is in front of me, and I'm kind of like, well, could be my first kill with a bow, but I really want to kill one of these bucks. And I don't know, something inside me was kind of saying, like, just let her walk, right? So I
Yeah.
let her walk. Eventually she walked next to me, blew at me, whatever. So like an hour goes by and I'm not seeing nothing. And I can still smell myself. The sun's already up. It's like 8:20. And I kind of just, and this is when I'm really starting to think about like, who is Jesus? Like, how do I get to know him? Right.
Mm.
And see what I did there?
Mm-hmm.
But
come on.
yeah, hey, I got to drop it in there where I can.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm sitting there and like I got my bow next to me. I just put my head down, man, and I'm like, Lord, look, you know how hard I've been practicing. I've got these deer up here. You know how ate up I am with it. I've started the podcast now. Like this is back in 2022 when it first started.
Mm.
And I was like, I'm using that to sort of, try to be my outlet for talking about deer. I was like, but if I'm going to be able to, catch people's eyes, I need to kill something. I was like, I've got these deer showing up. If you please send these deer, I will literally dedicate this podcast to you. Like it's all yours.
Yeah.
Dude, 10 minutes later, that deer and the other buck come like so the field is kind of on a little small hill, right? And it goes down into like this small little dry creek and then goes back up a ridge. Dude, I see these two racks coming and they're just swaying back and forth, just doing their thing. Like they're the big dogs on the property, which turns out they weren't. There was another deer that was like twice their size, but I didn't know this at the time.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, man, and I'm like, I look up, I was like, okay, all right, let's see what happens. So I settle in and they stood there for probably 15 minutes. And I have a photo right before I shot him. I was after the 8-point, which was Bluey, but he's the only one that gave me a shot. So he was quartered away, and I just was like, you know what? He's cool. He's got 3 brow tines on one side, 2 on the other. I'm going to shoot him.
Yeah.
Draw back, just saw it hit perfect, died 100 yards later or 100 yards down. And then the next episode, man, I'm over here just like, look, I'd pray right before it and be like, Lord, this is yours, man. I don't know where this is going to lead me, but here we are. So yeah, that's gotta be, there's a bunch of other stories, like a 160 I saw in public, but that one's more depressing than anything. So
we'll leave that one out.
We won't talk about that.
Yeah. No, that's good, man. And I mean, honestly, I mean, God's word says over and over, he talks about blessing obedience. And it's cool seeing that you're praying to the Lord and told him like, hey, if you do this, like I'll dedicate this to you. This reminds me of like Jacob whenever he was sort of setting his vow on the Lord, like, hey, if you bless me, then I'm going to give a tithe to you, and like saying like, hey, if you're going to do this, I'm going to give this back to you, and sort of same thing you did with Southeastern bow hunters, because we know the flip side of that. If we make some vows to the Lord and then we don't uphold it, well, he can pull the rug out from under you too.
And
I've learned
that the hard way too.
yeah. Oh yeah, me as well. Sadly. But man, I don't even know if I got to ask you the second question, because talking about, have you ever had a moment where the Lord's, just like been present with you, or like you just chalked it up to that was a God moment? You just gave like 2 of them right there.
I got many more, man, to be honest. I feel like it's the cliche thing, right? Where I feel closer to God in the woods. I explained this to one of my buddies. I did his podcast last week, and he asked me, he's like, what's your why? Right? Like, why do you keep going back? And I'm like, honestly, man, I was like, we have the city and we have all the hustle and bustle. We got all this stuff that man's made. I like to go where the Lord made it, right?
Yeah.
That's not to say that church isn't essential, because it is.
Yeah.
But I do have the feeling a lot, especially when I'm hunting, that, I get to see something new every time. And I'm like, oh, you designed it that way. You see in squirrels playing with each other. You see deer come in the way they act. You see a raccoon scurry up the tree. Like, we've got and this has nothing to do with it, but I got to tell you, we have a fox that's living by the house. This thing's acting like a puppy. And I'm like, you designed him that way. Like, I see the little things that not everybody gets. I'm not saying I see everything, because I don't, but not everybody in the world gets to see like his creation that way. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Hunters definitely have, I guess the word like could have a deeper connection. I know not all hunters are Christians or believers, but Romans 1 talks about his creation as evidence of a creator, and when you're in it, as much as we are deer hunting or turkey hunting or, fill in the blank, you see just the sunrise, the sunset, you see the way things move and come alive in the woods. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's evidence of a creator. There's no other
Yeah.
explanation. You see kind, creating their own kind. You don't ever see a doe dropping, you know,
A turkey.
turkeys, or something like that. And so you're just constantly reminded. And I don't know about you, but a lot of times some of my deepest prayers are in the stands because my thoughts are clear. I'm just sitting there. Now, these things can ruin that because people start getting, who I'm going to
Yeah.
scroll the feed. I love it when I'm in a spot that has no service
Oh yeah.
because it's less tempting. Because I don't care who you are. If you got a phone, dude, it's tempted. You get in the woods and you're like, man, I ain't seen nothing in an hour. I'm gonna scroll.
That's when they
Uh,
show up though.
yeah. Oh, dude, every
Yeah.
time. I've started like using my phone for a lot of recording. That way it's
Mm.
over here and it's like sort of I could press the button to record, but it's not in my hands where I can
Yeah.
text or scroll or
It's
something.
when you put it on airplane mode so people don't blow you up. And all
Yeah.
you hear in the video is like that. That's the worst, dude. I
Yeah.
hate that. I'll be in the stand and I'm just so focused, right? And then I
Hmm.
feel my pant, or I think that my pants vibrated, and I'm like, okay, that could be the wife telling me something, or maybe it's my daughter, or maybe
Yeah.
all of that. And I'm like, I look at it and it's nothing. It's a ghost
Yeah.
vibration. I'm like, dude, what are these phones doing to us?
Yeah. I swear sometimes your body just oh, your phone had to have buzzed by now. You
Mm-hmm.
need to check it, like,
Yep.
and so your brain's like,
You're
yeah,
addicted,
yeah, yeah, of course I'm that important. Let me check my text
right?
messages. And you're like,
Yeah,
oh, no, no one's
pride will
reached
do
out
that
to
to you. I've
me.
been there.
Oh man, well, that's
Yeah.
awesome. And so, yeah, you got some great stories. I do want to go over, you said your testimony is a long one. And this is the biggest part about this little hunter story is, like I said a little bit earlier, I don't know if it was on the first half before everything crashed out on us.
Yeah.
But my whole goal for not only for just to know them outdoors, but for this hunter story is just to have guys on here like you, to share their faith in Christ, their testimony of salvation. That way there's other guys listening to this that may not know Jesus and they can hear of his salvation, hear of his gospel, but also maybe they have gave their life to the Lord and they've been discouraged or not, don't have the courage to share it with other people. And so that's my prayer is for men. Men need men, and one thing powerful is a testimony, because a lot of times it took a guy sharing, being vulnerable and sharing his testimony of him breaking drug habit and coming to me over and over. And ultimately, my brother was what led me to just humbling myself and giving my life to the Lord. But there's guys that hear maybe your story. There may be someone listening to this that's going to hear your story after, and that be the reason that they gave their life to the Lord. And so that's the whole point, the whole vision, as you will, of the hunter story. And so I'm I can't wait to hear it. I don't know much about you. I know I've followed you on the Southeastern Bowhunter podcast and stuff. And so I'm truly thankful that you're here. But if you would go ahead and let everyone know, the testimony of Erik.
Oh boy. Well, I will say there's some things that are going to be said that I have never talked about on the podcast. Probably never been that vulnerable on the
Mm.
podcast. I may have said something, but yeah, let's start it like this. First off, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I can already feel the nerves coming up actually talking about this, but I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited. So yeah, well, I it really starts when I was a little kid, man. My family was Catholic.
Okay.
They forced me into a Catholic school, which I hated.
Mm.
Um, it's nothing against Catholicism or anything like that. Like I still to this day will, see some things that they talk about. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I agree with that. But
Mm.
as a kid, being the type of kid I was, I didn't like the structure that they had, right? And having to go to church and the dude speaking in Latin and I have no idea what he's saying. And I honestly would fall asleep.
Yeah.
So my parents divorced when I was 5, and that was rough.
Mm.
That was really rough.
Mm.
Dad was he's since passed on now, like 3 years ago, but
Mm.
back then he was he liked women a little too much. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And what's weird is going back, I had the same problem even as a kid. Like, dude, I was 2 years old. I asked this girl's dad if I could marry her. Which,
Mm.
looking back, I'm like, okay, maybe that's just a kid's thing that they do, but like, what the heck? Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of weird, right? But we moved down to Georgia. My mom gets remarried. I don't think really anything of it. I don't like my stepdad at the time. I'm just angry, and some people are going to think I'm weird, but have you ever had like I don't want to say a supernatural experience, but like an experience with the other side that we don't hold the team for? You ever had anything happen like that?
Not like that I know of, like any like type of demonic thing or anything like
Yeah,
that. I mean, we know that there's demonic spirits, in this world.
yeah,
We know there's an enemy in this world. So I can't like pinpoint a moment, but I know there's an enemy warring against us, seeking
yeah.
to devour us. And so I definitely think if anyone says that you don't have spirits trying to attack you, well, and now Hollywood can take it to far extremes
Oh
sometimes,
yeah, yeah,
but I do believe there are. I mean, obviously, you can't believe in angels and not demons.
exactly.
So,
Yeah, so it's one of those. I have two stories that are like that, right?
mm,
The first one that it's and I'll say this. I was very stubborn coming up, like getting to find my faith. I was so stubborn throughout my life.
yeah,
This is how I know Jesus does have the level of grace and forgiveness he does, because how I was, dude, if it was me, I would have been like, all right, man, you know what? You're for the world. Bye.
mm,
But it was rough, man. So yeah, I was a little kid and like we just moved down here, and I remember being in bed one night, and I all the lights were off, all that stuff, and we had this cat that was like my cat, right? And I swear, as clear as I can hear you, as clear as you can hear me, there was this voice that was in my ear. It's kind of like raspy, sort of whispery, and it was like, "Hey, go kill your cat and your mom. You know that's what you want to do. You're angry at
mm,
him. Just go do that." And it freaked me out so bad. Like, I still kind of get goosebumps thinking about it.
mm,
And so, of course, I'm 8 years old. I start screaming. My mom comes in. She's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" I didn't really tell her. I just said, "Hey, I had a bad dream or something." It was the only time when I was little that that happened. But I did not go to church from the time I was 6 to the time I was 15.
mm,
Had no interaction. Always, like I said earlier, I never denied Jesus.
yeah,
I was interested, but I never really was like, I need to get my life to this guy, right? Like, who is he?
yeah,
And so 15 rolls around. I'm not living a godly life in any respect. And I meet this girl. She takes me to church, and I'm starting to like it. But at the time, being a teenage boy with no godly, influence, you can probably imagine what I was doing.
the
You
same
know,
thing I was doing.
exactly,
Yeah,
chasing girls, getting into
mm-hmm.
trouble. Um, I also got exposed to, which I don't know how deep you want me to go, and how, like, I
Whatever
guess.
the Lord's got on your heart, brother.
All right, all right. So at 10, I got exposed to adult content
Yeah,
on accident, but I was still exposed to it. And that became a real problem.
yeah.
And I didn't know it was a problem, though.
Man,
Like,
it has affected so many
dude,
men and boys. Like, I
yeah,
mean, younger than 10 nowadays. It's
yeah. And like, to me, I'm like, well, I'm not hurting anybody. I'm like, hey,
yeah,
this is, you know what I'm saying? So
mm-hmm.
that played a heavy role in my life, man. And I went to church with that girl when I was 15, and I wasn't a good guy, but I was just like, oh, it's something fun to do. She wants to go. The songs are kind of cool. Well, then the pastor at the time started speaking in tongues, and like I
Mm,
knew enough where I was like, I knew what tongues were. I didn't know what they meant, and so it freaked me out. And I was like, I'm not going back. Like,
yeah,
nope. So once again, then a couple years go by, still living the same life. End up dating this other girl. She takes me to church, and that ended up being a major heartbreak, which was another thing that I had to go through. And at that point, so I'm not going to say I developed a drinking problem at the time, but I did turn to drinking for the pain.
mm,
And I do remember around that time, I was drinking a lot. And
yeah.
this is the second, I guess, encounter, if you want to say that. This is the one that I still to this day, I'm like, why didn't
Yeah.
I just give my life to
When
Jesus?
you were going to churches with these girls, were you going to like a Christian church or a
Yeah,
Catholic
yeah,
church? Okay.
yeah. No, it's Christian church.
So when was
I,
that like change? I don't mean to interrupt you. When was
no, you're
that
fine.
change of like okay, I'm not going to go to Catholic church. That's a whole nother topic I don't want to get into. But
Yeah.
then I'm going to go to Christian church. Like, when did you see there's that's wrong? This is the way I want to go, or
Well, so when we moved down here, my mom had got hurt by the Catholic Church too,
hmm,
and so she did not want anything to do with it. Doesn't
okay,
mean she didn't want anything to do with Jesus. She just didn't want anything to do with the church.
yeah, okay,
And yeah, man. So I don't know. It was just one of those things. Like, my friends are like, "Hey, you want to go to church?" I'm like, "Yeah, what kind?" "Yeah, it's a Christian church." "All right, cool, let's go."
yeah.
And it was just kind of like something to do with the buddies, or if I was dating a girl at the
Because
time, we would.
Chicago is pretty Catholic, right?
Oh,
In the
very,
city, yeah, yeah,
very, yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, so I'm 18 now, or no, I'm sorry, I was 19. And you ever had sleep paralysis?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I just had this right here. Drinking coffee at what time is it? 7:47. Don't help me. you know.
That's insomnia. That's a little different. Um, yeah, man. So yeah, let me get a drink of water real quick. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I looking back really should have been any sensible person that wasn't as stubborn as I was would have been like, "That's it. I'm going to church. I'm giving my life to Jesus. I'm done. Like, this is too much."
Mm,
I wasn't like that. Um, I wake up and it's like middle of the night and I can't move. Pitch black in my room. Can't move. I know I'm not dreaming because like I can look around the room. I just can't. I can't move.
mm,
And you said you have kids, right?
yeah, four of them.
So do you know what Momo is? Do you remember when that was a thing a few years ago? All these kids were getting scared by this like woman with these huge eyes and this huge smile. It was
I
going around
think I
social media.
seen something. I mean, our kids don't get on like, I think wasn't it on like YouTube or something?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yes.
we're those parents that like try to really protect our kids' eyes on something. And not saying that's anyone that does, like, not saying that's bad for
Yeah.
anybody else. It's just what we do for our kids. And I do remember Facebook seeing it, and it freaked me out, looking at
It was unsettling,
it.
especially after I tell you this story. Like so imagine that, right? And I'm laying in bed and this face is just like that.
Oh,
Think of
no.
Momo's face right in
Mm,
front of you. But it gets worse. There's no skin on her face. And she's smiling and I can't move. Like it's legitimately like this. And I'm just
mm,
laying in bed like, what is going on? So immediately it's getting closer and closer. I start thinking, I can't speak. I start thinking, I'm like, Jesus, help me. Jesus, help me. I said it a million times. Dude, it just disappeared.
mm,
And it was one of those like, looking back, I should have been, I'm going to church the next day, but I
yeah.
didn't do it, And again, it just goes back to like, he was giving me the push, like he was helping me out. There's many times I've been like, God, can you help me? And I had a car go down on me one time where it wouldn't start. I'm sitting in there, I try 3 times, and I'm like, Lord, please, I need to get home, and it just goes.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I was just stubborn. So a couple more years of that, I think that was sort of one of those seeds that was planted where I'm like, okay, there's got to be something to this,
Mm,
right? But I still was living the same life. Like, dude, there was multiple times that I almost died from drinking.
yeah.
I really relate to, I'd say Samson and David when it comes down to their problems because that was always a problem for me, and to this day, it still will rear its ugly head every now and then.
Mm,
But yeah, so flash a couple years forward, I meet my wife after a really bad breakup. I had to move back from Savannah, and I used to say that she saved me, right? Because she was the type, like I used to say GD, like I had no
mm,
filter.
yeah.
And to me, I was like, oh, well, I'm not saying his name in vain. It's like, no, 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 I was, and I
Yeah.
really didn't realize it. But yeah, she came into my life, man, and we had a very, I guess you could say, unorthodox start because within 2 weeks we were living together, and we got engaged after 6 months. We got married after a year and a half. But because of her being so open with me, I was able to start finally really thinking like, all right, I've been going to church a lot more because of her. There's something to this.
Mm,
So I think it was like 3 years ago. Yeah, it had to be. It was around the time that I killed Pickles, that I started seeing some things that, man, it was like I'll never forget it. The the beginning of me finding my faith and like diving fully headfirst into it was I was scrolling through Facebook, and you know how like they'll have like the videos of, oh, the Euphrates River dried up and this is in prophecy and blah blah
Mm.
blah. It's like
Yeah.
I saw one of those and I'm like, no way. So I looked it up. Like I always had the Bible app, I just never really opened it, you know.
Yeah.
And so I went back to the video, got, I forget what it was like Revelation something, and they were talking about the Euphrates River drying up and how that's the beginning of, you know, like Jesus coming back.
Mm.
And so I went and I found the verse and I was like, oh, whoa, wait a minute. Like this is actually happening. And so, dude, that from there, it was like I just kept digging and digging. I learned what the Shroud of Turin was and how, you know, that they can't replicate that. They can't figure out how that image is on that shroud the way that
Mm.
it is. And everything lines up with Jesus's crucifixion. The time frame lines up. The look of the man lines up. And the only way that that image could have got on there, from what the scientists are saying, is there had to be some crazy amount of like, I guess, nuclear energy or some huge amount of energy that just flashed
Yeah.
to put that image there. So I've always been like a fact based kind of person. And it's like, I saw that and I'm like, dude, I have to, like, I feel that tug, and like, you know, this, I guess you could say, addiction that I've got, is really running its course. I'm starting to see it affect my marriage. Like, I just can't keep living this way.
Mm.
And, yeah, man. So I think it was yeah, no, two summers ago, I really was considering getting baptized. Now, as a baby, when I, you know, in the Catholic family I have, they christened me, they baptized me, whatever. And I was like, I don't know if that really counts because it wasn't my own decision.
Yeah.
And so I started really thinking about it, and I was reading up on it. Like I've read the New Testament probably 4 times,
Yeah.
from Matthew all the way to Revelation, then restart it. And like it became very important to me. Like if I'm gonna sit here and talk about Jesus on the podcast, talk about Jesus with people, I have to get baptized.
Mm.
Right. And so I went and got baptized. It was one of the best days of my life. And I'm thinking at the time, you know, because I listen to podcasts all day long, right? Like
Yeah.
at work, that's what I do. So I listen to a lot of like, you know, Christian podcasts, hunting podcasts. And some of the podcasts I would listen to, they'd have people on where they're like, yeah, I was in church and I was an atheist, and then I was, my life was going a crazy direction. I was gonna die and all this other stuff. And I just had this vision, like I was in God's hands and I saw Jesus, and I'm like, I want that. And it never happened.
Mm.
Right. And so I started getting like a little envious of it. And I'm like, well, okay, if he's really real, and you know, he even says like, whatever you ask in my name, you'll receive it. Well, how come I'm not getting this?
Mm.
And it took a very long time and a lot of struggle, a lot of falling and getting back up and repenting and asking for forgiveness. I've asked for forgiveness, I can't tell you how many times, man. And it's one of those deals where it's just, I've come to learn that, you know, we all fall short of the
Yeah.
glory of God. Like none of us are ever going to be as perfect as Jesus was. We
Yeah.
can try, we do our best every day, but you know, I mean, I still fall, I still struggle with stuff. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I can't tell you, like, just in the past year, I had actually, I'll tell you this one thing. This is after I was baptized, after I'd been talking, you know, the word with people, and really trying my best to bring Jesus. I had an opportunity with somebody in the outdoor industry to go help them on their farm and do work with them and like try to, you know, build that relationship. The night before, I took it upon myself to indulge in the sauce a little too much
Mm.
and couldn't go the next day because I was too hungover.
Yeah.
And you know, I had to deal with that. And it's, I guess what I'm getting at is like, I'll sit with anybody, and I'll talk about Jesus. I'll tell the word. I'll try to push it and bring them to him. But it's, I think it was Paul, if I remember right, that said we don't battle against flesh and blood, but the spirits of the world,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I that couldn't be any more of the truth, man. I mean, it really is daily.
Yeah.
There's struggles. I've had times where I go and I'm like, you know, listening to the New Testament again, or I'm, you know, I just got off the phone with a buddy of mine or something and was talking to him about it because we, you know, me and my friends, we talk about this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And I'll be at a job, and you know, some lady, and I'm happily married, right? Like I would never do that. I would never do that. But some lady will come up and be all flirty and stuff, and I just look at it. I'm like, yeah, no, you're not getting this. Like this isn't
Yeah.
happening. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Um, but seeing what Jesus has done and knowing that, you know, if if I were to fall, that He's always there to catch you is the best feeling, because that doesn't mean like you don't abuse His grace, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely not something you want to do. But I've just gotten to the point where it's like I'm doing my best. I'm trying to bring as many people to Him as I can,
Yeah.
and I'm not perfect. I'm not. Nobody is.
No,
Um, but yeah, I
absolutely
mean
not.
it's a constant thing. It's like it's a process, and I had to learn that.
Yeah.
So
Well, you're in a process of like sanctification now.
mhm.
You've been saved, and I do want to sort of go back on, he's talking about when you was baptized. I guess when was the moment you like gave like, you knew your sin separated you from the Lord, Romans 3:23. When was the moment that like, you called on the Lord to save you? We see in his word that, baptism comes after and you've been baptized. So I might have missed it. It might have been when all that stuff went, we had to cut it short. But when was that moment you like gave like, asked the Lord to save you, come into your heart and
Man, it was it was one of those spurts where I was just not
yeah.
being like a good husband, a good
Mm,
dad, good friend. I just
yeah.
didn't care at all. And I remember sitting in my room alone, because I always get home early before everybody else. So I'm
Yeah.
always here by myself or doing deer stuff or whatever. But yeah, I was just sitting there, man, and I was kind of thinking about stuff, and I just remember looking up, and I was like, I'm giving it to you. I was like,
Mm,
I need you to save me. Like you are my Lord and Savior. You are God. You Jesus. You're everything.
yeah.
Like everything in my life, from the podcast to hunting to my struggles to my family to all of it, it's yours.
Mm,
And whatever you're gonna do with it, I'm here for it.
yeah.
I mean, it it almost, see, the weird thing for me is like I feel like, and maybe this is just you know my, what's the word, my pride talking, right? But I feel like He was always there, and I knew He was always there, because there's been so many times that I should have either died or something bad should have happened. I almost got kidnapped when I was a kid. That didn't happen. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think I always subconsciously knew like who was out there protecting me, and I didn't take the time to really think about it.
Yeah.
Um, Now I don't know if that makes me sound arrogant or like, I never want to sound like, oh, I'm better than everybody else,
Yeah.
right? Like I try to avoid that as much as I
Yeah.
can.
No, I mean,
Um,
his will is for all men to be saved. But,
yeah,
we know in his word, it talks about, confessing him as Lord, those who shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. And
yeah,
before we do that, our father is the devil, and we're a child of the enemy, and so it's like his will. It talks about that every man's to be saved. And so when people say like, "Man, the Lord sent them to hell" or whatever, it's like, no, he gave you every opportunity,
yeah.
and like
They
you in
chose
your
to go
life.
there.
I mean, I have a lot of mountain your stories, a lot of the same. Like there's just moments and moments and moments where it's like, man, I feel like if he didn't sort of intervene in that, it could have went. I could have died or could have done. I was a bad alcoholic. I ran a four off the side of a cliff one day. I literally should have died.
Jeez.
And like I look at those moments and I'm like, if it would have went the other way in those moments, I would have went to hell. Now, being from the South, being in a Bible Belt, I would have told you I was a Christian. I'd even
Yeah.
went to church a couple of times. Um, I could have maybe told you John 3:16. I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
but I'd never asked the Lord to be my savior. I'd never asked him to be the Lord of my life because, even the demons believe in his name. but
Yep.
they've never confessed him to be Lord. There's a difference in just believing in God and making him your Lord, you know?
You know how many times I've said
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
People are
And
like, oh, I believe. I'm like, yeah, well, you know what? So does Satan. We need to have a talk. And it's
yeah,
like, I'd say that in a joking way, but like, it's true, you know? And
yeah,
I mean, you know what? I'll be honest. I think when it really happened and I just didn't know it was that night I told you about when with the sleep paralysis thing,
yeah,
you know, because I literally was asking, I was like, Jesus, please help me. Like, can you help me? Like, I
yeah,
need you right now.
yeah,
And maybe that was it. You know,
yeah.
I don't want to say I know a specific time because I have these conversations with them all the time where it's like, you know, say I have a bad day or something,
Mhm.
and I'll come back and I'm like, hey, you know, I'm sorry, you know, I'm really trying here. You know, you
Yeah,
are the Lord of my life. Like you're
yeah.
everything, right? So I feel like it's a constant thing, and like, you know, I did mention the Seek One boys. You know, that
Mhm.
was a big thing because I never really talked about it.
Yeah,
You know, like I never was open. I mean, the one thing I was always told is there's two things you never talk about: religion and politics. And if you knew me the past 5 years, that's all I talk
yeah,
about.
yeah.
So
Well,
it's
the devil's really good at getting you to not talk. Definitely in the South. Like, so we just
yeah,
planted a church in Portland. We a guy, a pastor, he left with a team. They've been out there in Portland for a while, and he will tell you like those people, it's a whole nother world. Like, but they have some other issues there. Where here in the South, like hospitality and all those things, most people have heard Jesus. You got people over there that have not heard Jesus, or they literally hate the name and
yeah,
like will just spit in your face over there. But here in the South, you know, what we see a lot of the times is, you know, the devil's good at not talking, don't want people talking about religion. Not I'm not even talking about politics, but religion, because a lot of people grow up in the South. They grew up, their papa was a pastor, their daddy was a pastor. They grew up going to church. And if you don't ever talk about it, and not to, because it's also like the simplicity of the gospel is the belief, you know, Roman or First Corinthians 15, you know, the belief in the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Like that's the gospel, believing on that and trusting his work, not our work. But so many men will be like, yeah, I went down to the altar and said a prayer. And it's like, well, good. Now let's talk about it. Like, did you believe that the Lord is Lord? Like,
yeah.
there's not, like, we don't have to make it this complicated thing. You know, like a lot of people be like, man, was I saved? Was I not saved? I don't remember. It's like, do you believe in the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus? Like, have you asked him to be Lord in your life?
Yeah.
You're saved, you know? Like,
And that was the hardest thing for me because I still sometimes feel like, well, am I doing enough? What can I do? And then I have to remind myself, like, it's not, that's the thing that makes it set apart from
mm,
everything else is it's literally the most simple
yeah,
thing that makes the most sense. And it
it's
is
his
hard.
work.
Yeah. And it's crazy because it took me over a year to really be like, okay, I accept that. You know,
Yeah,
because like when I still mess up, I'm like, dude, am I actually saved? Like I'm over here acting a fool. Like, what am I
yeah.
doing? And then, you know, I get that conviction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I've had some other moments, man, where I'm just like, okay, I know that was the Lord talking,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I sit back and I'm like, okay, you know, it really is what he says it is. Like it's written down, you know, they
Yeah.
say, you know, you're saved by grace through faith. But what is faith? You trust in Jesus. You do that, you're set.
Yeah.
And it still boggles my mind because I'm like, you know, what about everything that we've done? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that is the hardest part is like people hear about the resurrection or the death and resurrection and like what he went through. I mean, have you ever looked at the medical report of what Jesus went through?
No, I mean, I've done a little study on, you know, like the spear in the side and like hanging
Dude,
and the way it compresses body and, you know, um, but
it is mind blowing what
yeah,
he went through. And like I think of that and I'm like, what you went through for all of us.
mm,
And
yeah,
yet we're still and the amount of love, like I can't comprehend it. I
no,
can't. I
yeah,
mean, I love my daughter to death. I do try to look at like I look at her and I's relationship, how I try to, I guess, think of mine with God because you know He
mm,
is the Father and all of that.
yeah,
And I'm like, I just look at her and I'm like, you know, there is nothing you could ever do that would make me not love you. Like I would lay down my life right now. And
yeah,
I think that's the point. Because if you really think about it, that's exactly what Jesus did,
Yeah.
right? Like he loved everybody, past, present, future, so much that he's like, hey, you know what? I'm willing to give my life up if it means you
Mm-hmm.
can be with me.
Yeah.
And I'm getting like shaky just thinking about it,
Yeah.
man. It's
Well, that
just
just
crazy.
shows like so many people will think he's an evil or terrible God because he sends people to hell. And it's like, no, we all deserve hell.
Yeah.
He is such a loving God that he gave us a way by grace and
Yep.
mercy to go to heaven to be with him. Like,
Yeah.
and the belief, like, it's just crazy to think of the love of that God sent his only son to die for us, for me, for my sins, for your sins, for everyone's sins. Romans 3:23. No one's lived a perfect life. Everyone's fallen short of the glory of God. The wages of sin is death. That's what we
Yeah.
deserve. Um, but he gives us a free gift, and it's
Yeah.
belief in him. And it's awesome that after one thing I always wrestled with is like, man, after we believed in him, like, dude, just rapture me up out of here.
Right.
Like, let's get going. But
Yeah.
he actually leaves us here to witness to other people,
Yep.
to try to graft them into his kingdom and to bring him glory. That's the
Yeah.
only reason we're still here, is to bring him glory in everything we do. And do we do a good job at that? No, I know I don't. I don't do a good job at that,
Yeah.
and all we can do is, hey, Lord, please just align me in your will every single day. Just have my mind and my heart focused on what you want me to do. And anything outside of that, just let it go away, you
Yeah.
know. And
Yeah, I mean that I think is when like what made me really just I don't care how I'm feeling. There's been times, dude, I'm stressed. I'll be in here earlier this year, our AC went out.
mm,
I had to do a podcast with no AC and I'm dying from heat and stuff. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna run through this intro super fast. I think I spent 5-10 minutes just talking about Jesus at the very end because it's like that's the most important thing. And I've
yeah,
said this before too, where like we just got hooked up with this radio show called Outdoor Call Radio that reaches like 60,000 people a year. And I
nice,
remember telling my buddies and my family, I'm like, listen, you know what I'm excited for? I forget the hunting stuff. Like, that's cool. That's cool and all.
yeah,
But every single episode, I'm talking about Jesus. Think about how many people that's going to reach.
yeah.
Like, that's
Hey,
the important part. And
that's
I'm
the
not saying
goal.
that to get flowers. I'm not saying that to be like, oh, look what I'm doing. But I'm saying that because it's like you're 100% right. Once you accept him and you believe and like it, is at that level. Yeah,
Hmm.
it'd be nice to get just hey, pluck you up and then you're with him. But
Yeah,
we're here to bring more people to him, and it's like
yeah,
that's the whole reason why I even do the thing
yeah.
in the intros.
Was fruit
So
that's on a bound to your account. It's so cool that we see, at the judgment seat of Christ, it talks about these rewards that believers, the great white throne judgment is a judgment for wicked. The judgment seat of Christ is for believers, and their works are judged for rewards in heaven. And one of those is like precious stones, and it's just souls that you've won to Christ.
yeah,
And there may be in this radio show or whatever it is, there may be names that you never hear of, never know of, but they hear something that you shared on your podcast, and they may have had people planting seeds for years.
yeah,
And then something you say is what causes them to finally give their life to the Lord. And that's going to be fruit that abounds in your account. And so it goes back to when you told the Lord, hey, if you would just do this, I'll give this over to you. And you've been obedient with it. And now he's got you talking to 60,000 people. That's
that's
pretty
crazy.
cool. That's
That's
pretty
so
cool.
crazy.
You know,
Yeah, I mean, see, the thing is, man, like I've always, and this is just my own view on it, I guess, but like I've heard people, like I watch The Chosen a lot, right?
mm,
And they'll take from scripture where I think it's like Peter and the boys are like, hey, so what are we going to get in heaven? And I'm just sitting there like, I get it, but is it bad that all I want when I'm done here is to just spend eternity with Jesus? Like, dude, keep the
mm,
mansion, keep the jewel, whatever you got. I
yeah,
don't care. You got a spare room, I'll stay in the spare room. But like, I just want to be with you.
yeah,
And the conflicting part of that for me is like, I feel that, I want that, but then I'm still human, still do things that I shouldn't be doing. And I
yeah.
think that's the struggle with understanding it is
Hmm.
like, I just have to accept it. Like that's
Yeah.
just where we're at,
Well, we still have this. We still have flesh.
Exactly.
We still have
Exactly.
things we battle. We still have sins we deal with. We have
Yeah.
desires that we want. And God is a good God. He's a
Oh yeah.
loving Father, and He loves giving us gifts. And so I do think there's things where, hey, He don't care if you enjoy hunting, go hunting. Now, if you ever make it an idol over your
Yeah.
life, like
Been there.
that's a problem. Don't make any idols over God. But hey, He's a loving God. So if it's not a sin, I think He gives us gifts like what I was talking about earlier with that deer. He blesses obedience. And I honestly chalk that deer up to I was obedient to what He said,
Yeah.
and He gave me a gift. Maybe it's wrong. Maybe it's wrong view on it, but
So
that's just what
what do you what do you do though if you've got like somebody that pushes back against you on that? Like, because I've had
Mhm.
people argue with me. I didn't even think we were going to go this route, but I am
No, you're
curious.
good. Yeah.
Um, I've had people that I'll just because I always am open about it, right? Something
Hmm.
good happens, or someone says, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm always like, "Yeah, well, God woke me up this morning, so I can't complain." There's been a couple of times where some people will get a little like disgruntled about that,
Yeah.
and then it turns into this whole like I'll give you an example.
Okay.
I spent an hour and a half with my little brother-in-law who is 18, 17, something like that. Dude was an atheist for years, right?
Mm.
And I'd always kind of dropped a little, hints here and there. He'd call me up about some girl problem, and I'd be like, "Listen, dude, I'm gonna be honest with you. Don't worry about the girl. Worry about, your faith. Do you know Jesus yet?" Like,
Yeah.
one of those like knock on the door salesman kind of guys.
Yeah.
And I do it in a loving manner, right?
Yeah.
Like a welcoming. I wouldn't just be like, "Hey, you're going to hate." Like I don't do
Hmm.
that. I actually have gotten angry at a couple of churches I've been to where they say that and then they don't teach repentance or any of that. And it's
Yeah.
like,
A lot of truth, not a lot of great love.
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, we spent a whole hour and a half, man, and he ended up deciding to follow Judaism. And we spent a whole my my daughter's entire softball game that night going back and forth, and he's trying to like debunk mine. And I'm not even
Mm.
saying that he's wrong. I'm just like, listen, man, like, have you really given him a shot? Have you actually genuinely tried? I was like, because the whole point of it's a relationship with him. Like
Hmm.
you're talking about all these things you have to do. He did everything.
Yeah.
All he wants is your relationship in return. And it got a little heated. I'm not gonna lie. Like he was kind of
Mm.
getting irritated, and I'm just sitting there like, man, I'm sorry, but I'm just telling you truth.
Yeah.
Like so. I mean, like, how do you handle that? Do you just sort of
Any
keep
push,
going, or
like any certain push, like what's
yeah,
your,
basically
like, would it be Judaism or just anybody rejects the gospel?
anything. Just if someone's like, yeah, I don't believe in your sky daddy, then what do
Yeah.
you do?
So I say, okay, well, hey,
Do you
we
not
got a
feel like a
free.
pull to kind of
No, I mean I do. Like I'll read the room. So if they're a stranger, like I think a lot of things. I think when you're sharing, when you're sharing, evangelizing, right? When
yeah,
you're sharing the gospel, if you're doing street evangelism, that's already hard enough because you don't know these people and they don't know you.
yeah,
I always say you need to build that bridge. You need to make a friend, relational. Let them see Jesus in your life. Actually and sample that,
yeah.
which is, buddy, that's a weight to bear. You know,
Oh, I know.
and but but then also you can start putting those moments in, but they're going to see like when you deal with grief, when you deal with hardship, where you're turning to, and then you drop that. Hey, do you know what's going to happen when you die? Now that conversation, if they're like, yeah, I just think we just whatever, or I don't know, never thought about, are they agnostic or are they atheists? Like, nope, there's no God, dirt, blackout, lights
Yeah,
gone, see ya. It was a fun ride. Um, but I think each situation is different. Like, because you're going to have the people that truly have never heard. You want to be very gracious with them, and share. I think your testimony is always the most important because anyone can pull this up and say, "Well, I see this and this and this," and it's like,
yeah,
look, man, um, this is what the Lord did in my life, and I mean, I'll go toe to toe with like not anyone because like, I don't. That sound arrogant, but I used to love debating and arguing
yeah.
because I was on fire like for Christ when I first come out. Every YouTube pastor, I was getting all the information like, "Ooh, got this argument," you know, and
Oh man,
but
that is kind of fun though. I'm
yeah,
not gonna
it
lie.
it it is
Not
fun.
not getting like onto them and like reaching out, but just listening to me like, you know
Well,
what?
hearing all the arguments they have, almost every argument I could just rebuttal right back.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's going to be your worldview. But what you do is like if they're want to bring up, oh, well, this is a contradiction here. The Bible's full of contradictions. It's been passed down. Well, let's dissect that. That's a whole nother day, whole nother conversation. Get into that. But you bring up your testimony. Well, this was my life. What's one thing they can never say is false or true? They don't know your life.
Yeah.
This is what happened in my life. They can't pull up a book or whatever and say, well, this is why this is wrong. Jesus didn't come to you in the middle of the night while some demonic looking figure was sitting over your face. Well, yeah, that's exactly what happened to me, dude.
Yeah. I experienced
Um,
it. Like,
but honestly, I take the Paul approach to it. For one, I want to build that bridge. I want to know these people. Do I do a good job at doing that all the time? Absolutely not. Is
yeah.
there been times where I've been like flipped off and yeah, okay, dust your hands off. Don't cast your pearls as swine.
Yep.
Eventually there comes to a point where we have a free will. We have a free will to choose and to reject Christ.
Yeah. Well,
And
and that's why I
ultimately,
said earlier, like, people want to say God sent everybody to the people that are in hell, that the God sent them there. They chose to go there.
yeah, it
That's
was
the
their
way I
choice.
look at it, because I'm like, dude, you could have chosen eternal life in the best place possible with the most amazing
Yeah,
creation, being, whatever you want to call them, ever.
yeah, yeah,
And yet you chose this instead, all because
yeah,
of whatever it was, And like, I feel sympathetic. I do,
yeah. It breaks
because
their
I
heart.
don't want to see that. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, I'm like, well, somebody did everything they could with you, and you just don't want to listen.
Yeah,
So,
ultimately, they've put themselves as God. That's the thing. They don't.
yeah,
A lot of times, people are too prideful to admit that there's nothing they can do to earn them in a right standing with a holy and righteous God.
yeah,
And so, or they don't want to say no to things, or and I mean, ultimately, like when you're sharing, when you have rejection, there's so much, and I don't have a whole lot of time to go into. I'd love to talk to you, share. We
we
can
can
make
always do
a
this
phone
again.
call. We're running out of time again, almost.
Yeah.
Um, my wife is going to kill me.
Same,
Um,
same. It's
but
okay.
it really is, every example is or situation is different, and you gotta read the room. You gotta see where their heart. If they're just rebellious and angry and don't want nothing about it, dude, hey, that's your choice, brother. Hey, I'm not going to shove Jesus down your throat.
Yeah,
You know, if it's just someone genuinely asking questions, well, I want to listen to those questions, because a lot of times they're truly asking questions like,
yeah.
man, well, what happens if God's real? Like, why is all this evil in the world? And it's like, okay,
Mm,
maybe that person's
love that
serious,
question.
and like, okay, let's break that down, or
Yeah,
like let's dig into that more, because a lot of times you're going to see that that person was hurt somewhere.
yeah. I
You
mean,
know,
just like how, when I went through all the stuff that I went through, I know that it was because of my parents splitting at such a young
hmm
age that
yeah.
I
My
was
mom
just
and dad was
hoping.
divorced when I was one.
So
And
there
so
you
I
go.
grew up in a single mom. Dad
Yeah,
was not really present, but weekend hunting here and there.
yeah.
He was a truck driver, and
I will say this though. I will say this. God works in my opinion, he works his best in suffering, and this is what I mean by that.
mm,
If you look at my childhood, right, split family, had a stepdad that I did not like, and all of that stuff. Now I'm a stepdad.
mm,
Me and my daughter have a great relationship. I see everything that he did. He and I have talked about this a million times, and I look back and I'm like, yeah, you did all of this stuff, and that's exactly what I'm doing, and it's the right thing to do.
yeah,
Like the way he was acting with me, now I'm acting with her, and it's going a much better route, because I've been in her life since she was 2. So
yeah,
me, her mom, and her dad, who I'm really good friends with, that's all she's ever known.
yeah,
And I think I look at it and I take the suffering that I went through to be able to not have her go through that.
mm,
And I look at it like God was just putting me through that,
yeah,
so that when this came about, that she didn't have to deal with it.
yeah.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
good. Yeah.
So,
A lot of times our experiences are to help others.
yep.
And that's just over and over. Like we were talking about your testimony, like my testimony. Like I said, I was a huge alcoholic. I talked to a lot of guys struggling with alcohol and letting them know, hey, there is a way out. You
Yeah.
know, and his name's Jesus. Like that's the only reason I was able to beat that. but I went through years of just I was a crappy human being, honestly. But he uses that experience to bring him glory, you
Yep.
know. And same thing with you, you know. But dude, man, I know my wife is. I got these things on, so I can't hear. But she's if I pull them out, she's probably screaming at me. Then
Tell her I'm sorry.
no,
I
no,
did
you're
warn you
good.
though. I
Yeah,
warned you.
no, it's like I said, we had the split and this thing going off and all that. So I'm
Hey,
definitely going to talk with you some more. I'd love to, any questions you ever got, definitely Bible or anything, man. Hey, I don't may not have the answers to everything. I don't, but I'd love to, chat it up with you, have you on again at some point. And I appreciate you honestly taking the time. I know it's been a long one. So taking the time out of your day to come on here and share a little bit about your hunting memories and your testimony to Christ. And man, I just pray that uh, you just continue doing what you're doing. The Lord blesses it. And man, that's about all I got, dude.
yeah, I appreciate it, man. Seriously, it was a good time. I apologize to everybody listening if I got a little emotional and vulnerable, but that's what this is all about. I mean, I'm not going to hide anything from anybody,
Yeah.
and that's again like going to the podcast thing. It's I try to be as genuine as I can.
Yeah.
I'm still learning, and people are gonna, I guess, learn with me. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, dude, thank you. Seriously, it felt good to do that, and you know, Christ is King. That's all I can really say.
Absolutely. Well, glory to him, dude. Thank you for coming on once again. And tell your wife I'm sorry too. And
I will.
man, we'll end it at that and I'll see you next time, dude.
All right, sounds good, buddy. Appreciate it.
See you, bud.